Well, here we are back in Ted's Belt. There's a lot of natural food around at the moment, so I'm not expecting a particularly big bag, but it's just nice to be out. Sun's shining, there's little wind, set up in my little hide, cup of coffee, waiting. Perfect. Half an hour later, and here's the first squirrel. Doesn't take too long for the wood to settle down, providing you sit there nice and quietly. I had expected the squirrel to carry on up to the feeder, so I didn't bother with taking the shot earlier. I was a bit surprised when it went back down on the ground, but at least it stayed still long enough for me to get off a good shot. Less than 15 minutes later, and here's the next customer. Settled into a nice steady feeding pattern, so ready to go. You can see that was a well placed shot just behind the eye, so I was a bit surprised when it started to move around. The way this squirrel started moving around, I thought I might have to go out the hide and actually finish it off, but then all of a sudden it just stopped moving, so I was able to stay put. There's a marked contrast between the reactions of, say, a squirrel and a rabbit when they've been headshot. Rabbit pretty much falls over sideways, stretches its back legs out, and then that's it. Squirrels always seem to thrash around a lot. In fact, it's the ones that don't thrash around that you're more suspicious about, because they're the ones that quite often will suddenly start moving 10 minutes later. Well, I suppose this one could be classed as a suspicious death. Not enough movement for my liking. Had to keep a watch on this one. It didn't in fact move later, so I was able to go back to watching everything else going on. I've had a wildlife camera set up monitoring this particular feeder at times, and I have had the occasional rat coming up to feed on it at night, but this is the first time I've seen one during the day. Unfortunately, it moved its head as I took the shot, so it lives to raid my feeder another day. That looked to be a good shot, but it obviously didn't do the job. When I looked later, frame by frame, I could see that the pellet had actually gone off to one side, and I think it probably had a damaged skirt, so the follow-up shot was needed. The squirrel that was wandering around on the ground certainly wasn't agitated at all, but this one was obviously quite nervous. The way it eventually left the feeder, I think it must have been spooked by the muntjac that turned up. It's a nice 3/4 grown Muntjac doe. There's a good head of Muntjac generally within the wood, so much so that they're now being stalked by some Danish clients who are prepared to pay €200 a head. It's a shame because I'd rather put them in my freezer, frankly, but there you go. The damage that they do within the wood certainly prevents a lot of regrowth in the bottom, so it's good that the numbers are being reduced. I was a bit premature with the shot. The squirrel hadn't really gone into a feeding pattern, so it actually moved just as I fired. You can see where the pellet missed and hit the ash tree behind. Fortunately, it didn't seem to be that upset because it went down on the ground and settled down again, so I was able to get a good shot at it there.